Hi, and welcome to English and Immigration, your source of information about Canada. Now, today's topic is about Canadian English. Canadian English. So we're going to talk about two parts, understanding and speaking Canadian English. Now, first of all, understanding. What does it mean to be able to understand Canadian English? A stands for accent. Can you understand Canadian accent? Well, if you're already in Canada, you might have heard things like $20. British people would say $20, right? And Canadians say 20. So they omit the sound T. Another example, if you're talking about a big city, city. So we say city, right? Toronto, big city, for example, Toronto, right? So you would hear people, instead of saying Toronto, they would say Toronto, and that's one example of what is Canadian accent. Right? Now, number 2, P, stands for phrasal verbs and idioms. Now, phrasal verbs and idioms, you don't need to learn all the phrasal verbs and idioms of the English language. You need to learn those that are commonly used in Canada, those that are used on a daily basis. So this way, when you start talking to people, you start listening to people, because we're talking about understanding, that's listening. So you'll be able to understand what they mean. If somebody says, I need to sort this out. So sort it out. And so what is sort it out? That means then you solve the problem. Now, sort out is an example of a commonly used phrasal verb. Or another example, somebody would say, only 5 people showed up for a meeting. For a meeting, okay, meeting, right? But showed up. What does it mean showed up? Did they show something? No, they didn't. It means 5 people came to that meeting. And that's another example of phrasal verb. Now, let's say somebody listens to your idea and they respond with sounds good. Sounds good is an example of an idiom. And sounds good means that they agree to your idea. Another example of an idiom would be somebody saying, I'm running late. I'm running late. That means they're on their way to work or on their way to, say, an appointment, and they may be late, most likely will be late. Right? So that's called I'm running late. On the way, but will come late. And in which case you need to call, by the way, Canadian culture. So number 3, understanding Canadian English. Number 3 is I. I stands for indirectness. And indirectness is something Canadians are kind of famous for. They will not say things as they are. For example, you come to an office and you have an appointment. A receptionist might tell you, would you like to wait here? So would you like to wait here? In grammar, it's a question, but it's not. Now, Canadians use a lot of those. It looks like a question, it sounds like a question, but it's not a question. And you have no choice. You need to wait in whatever area you're being shown to. That's an example of indirectness. There are more, but we'll make a separate video on them. Number 4, the last one here, understanding. B stands for body language. You need to be able to read Canadian body language, because people will say one thing, but their body will communicate a different thing. Let's say you're standing close to somebody and you're talking to them, you're explaining your problem or whatever situation, and as you come up, the other person steps away, takes a step back. This is their body communicating with you. But can you understand what that means? Because what that means is you just entered their intimate zone. You're way too close to them. Simple, right? So you can learn about Canadian body language and what it means. Let's say somebody has their arms crossed. What does it mean in Canadian body language? Different culture, different meaning. And just to give you the answer right away, that means they are not interested. But you need to know that, right? So reading, understanding Canadian body language. Now, let's talk about speaking. To be able to speak Canadian English, you need 4 things. And the first one, here's P. P stands for politeness. Canadians are well known for being polite. But a lot of times immigrants say, well, I'm polite too. I use please and thank you and all the nice words. Well, that's not enough. This is basic. It's important, but it's basic. So what you need to learn is to use expressions like would you like, could you please, all those polite grammatical structures that are so important in Canadian English. If you can use them, you're speaking Canadian English. Okay, the next one, T. T, what is T? T stands for taboo, and taboo means no. There are certain topics that are taboo in Canadian conversation. Means we don't ask, we don't say, we don't speak. Different countries have different taboo topics, and in Canada there's a long list of those taboo topics, especially if you just met this person you're talking to. You cannot ask them, how old are you? You cannot ask them, are you married? Do you have children? How many children? Why you only have 1 child? How much money do you earn? How's your health? None of those questions. So there's a big list of topics. These are just examples. It's a big list of topics that you cannot ask. Now, we're going to make a separate video on that. Today is just an overview. Now, why do you need to know which topics are taboo and which topics are okay? Well, you want to build relationships with people. You want people to respect you. They want people to see you in a good light so that they will see, okay, this person's a good worker, so maybe you'll get a promotion at work. And not maybe, communication is very important. And again, that's a topic of a separate video. Now let's talk about number 3 here, C. What does C stand for? It stands for concise. It's communication that is concise, which means short and to the point and clear. So if you're talking to somebody, let's say you want to ask them for something, and you come up to them and you start telling them, well, yesterday I had this appointment and I went and this and I did this and I done that and then this happened and then. So if the person is Canadian, what's going to be happening is outside they're smiling, they're saying yes, okay, they're listening to you. Inside they're boiling with anger, but they're polite. They will never show you. Now, why are they angry? Because everything inside of them is saying, this person is wasting my time. Why is this person telling me this story? And when finally you arrive at the end and you say, well, I need to ask you for this and this because of this, my story. They're angry at that point. They won't show you. So you don't want to make anybody angry. You need to know the Canadian way. And the Canadian way is, first, you make your request. So you have to reverse the things, right? So you make your request, I need this and this and this, because, and then you continue talking and explain the story and explain the reasons, and then everybody's relaxed and everybody understands. Right? So this is what you need to learn. That, again, this was just an example. Communicating clearly, concisely, and to the point. Now, it is important because This tells people you respect their time. Remember, I told you, Canadians would think you're wasting my time. Why are you telling me this? Right? So don't waste anybody's time, because that's what they're going to think. Learn to respect their time by structuring your speaking correctly. Okay, finally, the last one we have here, A, and A stands for adapt your body language. So your body language, your cultural body language, is from the country you came from. In Canada, body language is different, but Canada is multicultural, and that's the beauty of Canada. Now, that multiculturalism means that when you're communicating with a person from your country or culture, you communicate with the same body language as before. When you're communicating with a person from Canada, born, raised Canadian, you communicate with them how they like it. You communicate with the appropriate distance, with the appropriate gestures. So you change your body language, right? So that's the last one, is that adaptation of the body language according to whom you're speaking to. And again, it's a topic of a separate video. We'll do a video on the body language. And today we just did an overview of Canadian English and what it means to understand Canadian English and to speak Canadian English. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.